Well, good morning. This is another episode of On the Road with Roy. And today I would like to talk to you about the concept of racism. Now, I know that it's really been talked about in the news, and you got Black Lives Matter, and you got yellow vests in Europe, and the Black Bloc in Europe, and it's everything that you see is right now based upon racism and systemic racism. And as a biblical scholar and one who studies just all the time, it's always kind of bugged me to have people accuse me of being racist. And they're accusing me of being racist simply because I'm white. Well, I got to tell you, that's just stupid. And all of these people going around talking about racism are missing the whole program. They're buying a lie. It's all smoke and mirrors. The reason is that racism, the experts can't even define what racism is. You can go study it. Racism wasn't even used as a word until about 1902, and then after that it was another 20-30 years before the word became sort of common in usage. And it stemmed from a lot of the Nazi campaign BS experiments and hatred that was going on in Europe, trying to define something against Jews, something against the Poles and the Romi and the Italian. All this stemmed from this big German movement. And when you get it to the experts, they can't even define properly what racism is. And I'm here to tell you, there's a reason for that. There's a reason they can't figure out what it is because it doesn't exist as something that you can cure. How do you cure racism? Well, you can't, because you can't properly define it. You can only cure something if you know what it is. It's like some sickness. If you don't know what you got, how do you know how to deal with it? Simple as that. Now, what we should be fighting against is something that is curable, and that is hatred. Hatred is a biblical concept. You can go in the Bible and you can see what is defined as hatred. Even Jesus talked about hatred, and it goes back, a lot of it, to the golden rule. Don't do to somebody what you don't want done to you. It's a nice Jewish saying. It was talked about by Hillel in the rabbinics, but Jesus touched on it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the cure, or the problem in a nutshell. And I'm here to tell you that the only thing that cures hatred is Jesus. I'm just being flat honest with you. You can't cure hatred with a pill. You can't cure hatred by shaming somebody into trying to bow down and kiss the feet of somebody else. You can't shame them into tearing down statues or telling them that there's systemic racism. You can't cure it. It's impossible. Only God has the ability to change a man's heart. Now, a lot of times people who have hatred because of something that's happened to them, and they're harboring unforgiveness. And you have to deal with that unforgiveness. But it's not going to get better by telling them that they're a worthless worm and a piece of trash, and that they're a racist because they were born white. You know, you guys need to smarten up. God created each and every one of us. It doesn't matter if you're brown or black or white or yellow or fuchsia or whatever. God created each and every one of us for a special purpose that only we can address and only we can solve. So he created each one of us, whatever color we are, because we have a job that only we, as whatever color we are, whatever race you want to say that we are, we're part of the human race, not a black race or a white race or a yellow race or a red race or what. We're part of the human race, and each and every one of us are only created to address a certain problem that God has got for us to solve. And if you don't know what problem it is that you're supposed to solve, we are supposed to emulate Christ and the Messiah. And the Messiah, when he came into the earth, he brought light into the earth. He created light from darkness. Now, that is our job, is we are to go into the world that is full of darkness and bring it light. If you don't know how to do that, you might need some instruction. But that is our job. That is our purpose, is to bring life where there is death. We do that by bringing the gospel. And I'm telling you, the gospel is the cure for hatred. Now stop buying into this whole lie that the media and all of the pundits and all of these dumbasses are talking about racism. It doesn't exist. We can't solve it. We can only solve hatred. Now, go study it, learn about it, and quit being a pawn, and quit thinking you're something that you're either better than somebody else or you're worthless under somebody else, and figure out who you are in Christ Jesus, and then you'll go a long way to solving